Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers, episode 132. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
Jay?
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Cocked your head to the side and said I'm angry.
What have you been up to this week, man? What'd you get your fingers in? What'd you get sticky? What do they smell like?
Oh, David, don't say that. Don't say that. Well, Dave, a lot has happened this past week. A lot. And I really honestly can't get into some of it. I might get into some of it on Patreon, to be honest. There is a couple segments that we have talked about doing with me, and I will probably voice a lot of my life adventures, I guess you could say.
No, adventures. Poor life choices. Poor
life choices.
Poor life choices.
On Patreon, more in detail. I am trying to refrain from too much personal information on our regular show.
Well, here's a little bit that we could share, because I don't think anyone's listening to it that this would hurt. Me and you were sharing news stories back and forth. I'm sitting with my wife on Saturday night at my parents' house, and I'm flipping through news stories with my wife, and I get a nudie.
Yeah. I think it's probably been well over a year since I've sent you like a butt picture or something of a girl,
and you slid it in there so nonchalantly, and then I was like, is this his way of getting me to ask about this girl that he just sent me a nude photo of?
To be honest though, this was the time when I actually did it by accident, because I was sending you multiple fucking screenshots of news things, and then I guess that photo was right next to one, and I kind of, double hit it. But when I sent, I was like, oh, that's, whatever. I didn't think, and I'm like, are you kidding me? The last time I sent one, and I purposely try not to send anything to you because of that fact.
Yeah.
Lauren caught it, and she was like, Jay, it's fucking disgusting. What the fuck, Jay?
Well, it's not that.
I'm like,
it's that you're sending them to me. She's not disgusted that women are sending them to you, because that's their choice. She doesn't care about that. She was disgusted that you send them to me, and then I'm sitting there, I'm going through news, and she's sitting right next to me, and I don't hide my phone or anything, because I'm looking through movie news. What is there to hide? And then boom, a big old butt.
I don't usually do this, but I felt compelled to tell you something. You have an absolutely breathtaking hiney.
It just shows up right there, and she's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Movie news." I was like, I don't know, Jay must have thrown it in there by accident. And then I was like, or he didn't, and he wants to brag about it.
No, that was actually an accident. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I mean, shit
You
happens.
save them? You don't just use them once and then delete them?
Sometimes.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean,
usually. I mean, but I don't know.
I
don't remember. Dude, it was, I don't know.
I mean, when you go on the internet, you don't watch the same porn video multiple times and whack it to it, right? So why would you keep the same nude photo of girls?
Right.
Yeah.
Use
it and lose it, Jay.
Oh, I know. But honestly, this was again, I would get into it in Patreon as far as some details of things in my personal life, but that was kind of a funny moment. I was surprised that actually happened, and again, I'm embarrassed now being around Lauren. I think she's more uncomfortable being around me now. Again, of course, another setback for Jay and Lauren.
Yeah. She. There was a time where she liked you.
That was so long ago.
And then she was, and then she could stand you, and
that was
now
before you got married, probably.
And now the landslide of you just keep digging yourself. You got to drop the shovel at the front door, because you just keep digging yourself deeper every time.
Yeah, I don't know.
I love it. I love it.
And it reminds me of I don't know. It reminds me of and then I try not to do anything, and I try not to speak to her, which sometimes makes it even worse.
Oh, see, now you treat Lauren the same way I treat Lauren. See,
and
you're
then
learning.
like I'll casually ask her a question, but of course it's like bad timing because she's trying to listen to like what's going on TV, and she's like, "What the fuck are you talking to me for, Jay?
Yeah,
I'm trying to watch this show."
If she's watching TV,
I'm like,
don't
fuck, I
don't
messed
talk.
it up again.
Yeah, don't talk. If she's watching TV, I don't talk to her when she watches TV. And if I do, she'll humor me for a little bit, and then she'll be like, and she'll pause the show and stare at me and be like, "What?"
And well, I mean, I guess we can slip it in. Our Eagles lost, Dave. I mean, just getting off topic a little bit, but I that was painful.
Yeah.
It was essentially what the Bears felt last week. You know, it was the worst way to go out in a playoff run.
The whole reason that like it's more upsetting to me is because I made a bet. I made a bet with Chris over at the Gravity Beard podcast. We're in the same football texting chat with each other with Chris Brayton from More Gooder Than, and we were talking about it all week, and he had Saints to win and I had Eagles to win because A, I'm a huge Eagles fan, but B, I honestly thought the Eagles were hitting that stride. I when they came out in the first quarter, I was like, that's
Boom.
it. I was like, you might as well record your video and send it to me now. So the bet was I would send him a Eagles t-shirt. He would have to wear it and video himself singing the Eagles fight song and then send that back to us for us to play on air and share with our followers on Twitter and stuff like that. But if I lost, then I was going to have to do my top 10 list of actors that I'm sexually attracted to. And I think he thought that would embarrass me.
I love the pussy, alright?
When you wrote I love the pussy, was you thinking of dangling your dice on Lance's forehead?
Nah, hell no. What? Come on, look.
Man, everyone's gay once in a while.
I'm not gay.
This
How about we do
Hollywood.
this? How about we all get back to work?
Okay.
He obviously does not know you that well.
So I will be recording that tonight.
Little jealous that I'm not doing it with you.
I will be recording that tonight and sending it over to Gravity Beard.
Cannot wait.
And he runs a clean podcast, so his podcast is 100% safe for work. Ours is not, and I will
Safe for church?
I will not be.
Not this time.
I will not be censored. He better have his Roadrunner beep sounds ready. Because I am going to be cursing up a storm.
Oh boy.
It's going to be fun.
This is going to be glorious. I love it. I can't wait. Yeah.
So let's get into some of our listener questions for this week.
You could ask yourself the question, do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
It just raises too many questions.
Excuse me, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything.
All right, Jay, each week in 2019, we're going to be taking one listener question from Twitter, one listener question from Facebook. So don't feel free to send them in. If we ever have a light week, we might go back and grab one of them, but we're going to pick the best question. So this question comes from Aaron Cole, and he is the host of the Raw Opinions podcast. And he asks, what is the best decade for horror movies? So Jay, what's the best decade for horror movies? A genre which you historically hate and do not like.
This is true. I initially wanted to say the 90s. However,
just like your action film from the 90s?
I'm actually going with this decade.
All right, you're going with like right now, 2010s.
Yeah, the 2010s.
2010s to 2020s, even though it's not even over yet.
It's been a huge decade. I know, I don't care. It's been a really, really strong 5-7 years. Plus,
I think you're right.
In the horror world.
The early 2000s was dominated by the torture porns, the hostels,
and the campier stuff too. Sometimes, but it really turned over into something really more visceral and more thought provoking and a little bit more emotionally gratifying. I think.
Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's because a lot of them are paying homage to my favorite horror decade. The 1980s. I mean, the 1980s were
perhaps.
I mean, it's the solidification of the slasher flick all throughout the early 80s, and it is filled with horror movies that have a lot of camp, but it's filled with horror movies that have a lot of atmosphere, have a lot of tone. Blood and gore reign supreme, and there are just so many fantastic horror movies throughout the 80s. I'm not going to sit here and list them all, but I mean, the 80s is rife with it. Plus, I'm an 80s kid. I grew up watching 80s movies, so So I think that plays into it as well. I do love this current decade for movies, though. I think you're right. A lot of them are more like paranormal slow burns. You know what I mean? They really get into like the psychological thriller aspect of the haunting more so than focusing on the jump scares and stuff like that. And I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think current horror movies could even be on the table, but I'm still sticking to my guns. I'm saying the 80s. I love 80s movies so much. I mean, we talked about 80s and 90s action last week, and still can't believe you like 90s action more than 80s action. I just don't know what you're smoking about.
I guess I've just seen more.
All right, so that was our question from Twitter. So I want to thank Aaron over at the Raw Opinions Podcast. You can follow them on Twitter at Raw Opinion Pod, and you can also check them out on iTunes and any podcast catcher. Jay, what's the question from Facebook? What do you got?
This is coming from Justin Escovez from Epic Film Guys. He is asking us, who's better, Pacino or De Niro?
I know one thing. De Niro's got a great ass!
Well, at least we know that Dave likes to impersonate Pacino over De Niro.
I think De Niro...
Because people, some people like to impersonate De Niro more than Pacino and vice versa. You never know.
I think as their careers have gone on, De Niro has been able to diversify himself enough to get more roles and to
put himself out there.
He puts himself out there a lot more.
Yeah.
Al Pacino, I think of his later career, and it all seems like cash grab. It all seems cash grabbing. But his early career, fantastic, dude. Like,
no, absolutely. I mean, and they both were, and that's why it was such a debate for so long.
If I had to say which one of them,
I think the conversation anymore really is about the old Pacino and old De Niro, not overall.
But if I think about if I think about the movies they've done, and I say which one has the best movies, the best performance in the movie, I would say Al Pacino, especially with his earlier performances in The Godfather 1 and 2, Dog Day Afternoon, Serpico. He early
really impressive. Yeah,
late 70s, early 80s. It was really
all
impressive.
him,
and it goes downhill from there. But as far as solidly performing throughout their entire career, De Niro takes it.
Yeah. No, without question. I definitely think that the majority would agree with us. It's just De Niro all the way. I mean, there's no question about it. And even there's so many great sprinkles of performances. Probably one great one in every 5 years, I would say, with De Niro. He does a lot of stuff, a lot of crap, a lot of fluffer, a lot of good cameos, but even nuances like Meet the Parents, even something silly like that.
She bent over and I gotta look at a balloon knot.
But guess what, man?
But don't touch, but don't taste, but don't swallow.
Oh, Jesus. But
vanity, definitely my favorite sin.
But you know what I'm most excited for? That he's coming out this year?
The Irishman.
The Irishman.
Yeah.
Come on. The both of them, actually, to be honest. They're both in it. It's going to be so exciting for me. It's got to be top 3 for me, anticipated of this year coming up. Ooh, baby. Can't wait.
So that's going to do it for our listener questions this week. I want to thank everybody who submitted us listener questions. We're going to be doing it all year long. So every week, just reach out to us. Me and Jay will each put up a post, him on Facebook, me on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter at SuperMoviePod or check us out on Facebook, Super Movie Bros Podcast on there. Well, look for that and respond to it, and we will pick the best 2 questions that we want to talk about. You can also reach out to us through email if you're still using that. I'm not sure if anyone is that isn't an AARP card carrying member.
Sure.
But you can reach out to us, supermoviebrospodcast at gmail.com. All right, Jay, another thing that we're doing this year is we're doing movie homeworks. Our Patreons are sending us movie homework. So this week, I was assigned Tombstone by Thomas Iannucci, one of our 15% ABV patrons. So he wanted me to watch Tombstone, and I had never seen Tombstone. Like me and you talked about last week, I'm not a big 90s movie fan, but this is one that I've heard a lot about. A lot of people have a special place in their heart for this movie, and it has an absolutely outstanding, star-studded, wonderful cast. Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Kilmer, Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, Powers Booth plays the bad guy. Michael Biehn, plays the other bad guy. Charlton Heston has an early appearance by Jason Priestley, and Thomas Hayden Church as well. So there is Michael Rooker, for Christ's sakes. There are a lot of people in this movie. Billy Bob Thornton. I mean, it is who's who of 90s actors. And I got to tell you, man, 90s movies just don't hold up, man. I don't know what it is. A lot of 80s movies seem timeless. A lot of 90s movies feel dated when I watch them. And this one is very much that way. I'm not particularly in love with the score. I'm not particularly in love with the cinematography. I really felt like it was...
Yeah, the cinematography.
Yeah, and I'm really not happy with, like, a lot of the performances are not good. But, like, the last 45 minutes to half hour of this movie are so fantastic. And I gotta say, man, Val Kilmer's performance in this is awesome. I love Val Kilmer in this movie.
I'm your huckleberry.
He's an exciting young actor when he was coming up in the ranks, and we'll see how he turns out. In this Top Gun remake, so he's going to be making an appearance. Who knows how he's going to play it? It'll be interesting. It's been a long time, Dave.
It feels very 90s when I watch this movie. No,
Sure.
I didn't dislike it. I really did enjoy it, especially like that last 45 minutes to half hour. And I love Kurt Russell, and I think Kurt Russell was at his most handsome in the early 90s. I want to say
skin was a little bit more taut,
right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and that mustache was just curled
and the hair flowing so right still.
But it's got Sam Elliott, and god damn it, I can't not love his voice every time he talks. It is like smooth butter. I love it.
It's the best.
But I mean, it is the story of Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and them cleaning up Tombstone. And
such a great name though, right? Doc Holliday.
Doc Holliday. It's an awesome name. Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. And he's dying of tuberculosis, which, like, I'm watching it and I'm like, wait a minute, that kind of, I just finished Red Dead Redemption 2. This kind of feels a little bit, except instead of following the outlaws, I'm following the law. But I did enjoy it. I just, like I said, I don't think it ages as well as people might quite remember it. I mean, I think definitely if it's one of those things that I saw at a younger age and I saw, I might have a fondness for it.
It would have more of a nostalgic factor too.
But there's certainly memorable moments that I really, really enjoyed watching, and it definitely is a movie that has, at least in Val Kilmer's performance, has outlived itself. Like, people may not remember the movie, but people remember the line, "I'm your huckleberry." All right, Jay, you were also assigned a movie homework, not by anybody really. You signed it to yourself, which was a little bit bullshit.
Fool this man!
People were throwing you movie homeworks, and you were like, no, like a dickhead.
Yeah, well,
they're patrons, Jay. They literally pay you to do what you do, and you said no.
I owe them.
I should have them vote to see whether you're fired or not, because they're our board of directors.
I do owe them. I'll tell you. I just could not bring myself to seeing a couple of these movies, and plus it was a little last minute, and I didn't want to pay to rent.
4 days is last minute. I rented Tombstone. Paid $4.99 to rent Tombstone. Watched it today. Jay, they pay you a lot more than $4.99. So
look. Like I said, I owe them.
Yeah. If you balk on a Patreon again, you're fired.
But I think
I'll just pull right now.
I feel like
fired.
I feel like these are worthy because these are movies that I would never have seen.
Jay, The Fly and Willow are worthy. They're worthy.
No, I was going to see The Fly. What happened with The Fly? I couldn't find it anywhere.
You said it wasn't streaming anywhere, and you didn't want to pay to rent it.
Ugh, did I really say that?
Yeah. So
I thought that was Willow.
Anyway. No, I have Willow on DVD. You're taking it home. Now you're doing Willow next week.
Fuck.
You could have done the Fly if you just rented it. Now you're gonna have to do Willow. The Fly's gonna have to wait for another week, sir.
No, I'll do both. That'll be my punishment. I'll review both movies. That'll be my punishment.
Fair enough. I
make up for it. But anyway, speaking of two movies, I watched Paddington and Paddington 2.
I allowed you to do this because these are not J-type movies.
No. And I thought that the people, our Patreons, would obviously know that and kind of let us slide because they are very under the radar, but extremely beloved. And there were some years where I'm seeing it at the top of people's lists of best of and all that. I'm like, what the fuck is this movie?
I haven't seen Paddington 2 yet, but Paddington 1 is absolutely adorable and fucking charming, and it makes you feel so good just watching it.
Dude, it does.
Yeah.
And the second one does as well. It's a little different. It's a worthy sequel. I think I prefer the first one over the second one. I think some people think it's vice versa, but for whatever reason, it hit all the fuzzy moments in me. Hit strong on the first one more so. But this is the adorable adventure of Paddington, and he comes and travels to London to look for a home because his home gets destroyed and his family is no longer around, and he tries to find a family, and he does. From Sally Hawkins, Mary Brown, she stumbles across them at the Paddington train station, and they're very safe and cautious father / Sally Hawkins' husband is a risk assessor for a living, and he regretfully kind of brings him into the home for one night, and misadventures happen, and he kind of makes a mess of things, and it's all in good fun. You see how things get silly and unravel, but he is such an adorable bear who is the kindest thing on the planet, and
he loves marmalade sandwiches.
He loves marmalade sandwiches, and he's just an uber gentleman.
Manners maketh man.
Through and through. Very English movie. Both movies. But this one is just, it hits all the right notes.
So Paddington...
Nicole Kidman plays the big baddie.
Paddington or Mary Poppins? Which one's the better English? Oh, I don't have a fondness for Mary Poppins, so I say Paddington.
I would rather watch Paddington.
Yeah, so would I. Fair enough. What'd you think?
I understand who people, like there's some people that might think it's Mary Poppins more.
It's more classic.
It's a little more classic. It's a little more probably true to life. Obviously it is. Sorry.
So what's the what's your thoughts on the second one then?
The second one, it ramps up a little bit more of the action. We have the villain played by Hugh Grant this time around, and he does a pretty good job with it, actually. He pulls off a lot of different personalities and accents and voices.
Does he punch a transvestite hooker in it?
Kinda.
Okay, because that's what he did in real life to go to jail, so.
Oh my God.
At least to get that infamous mugshot.
It's pretty wild. And then he actually ends up going to jail. And it's the most adorable jail adventure you'd ever see. It's so much fun. I really just adored the movie again. However, I feel like it was a little bit more self-aware. I mean, it's equally as good. It really is. They're both A movies, without a doubt. It's just little personal tastes of what you prefer over the another one. And it's a beautiful follow-up. Paul King did both movies. He is apparently going to do a third movie, Paddington. He doesn't do too many things out there. So this is something that he knows all too well and does it all too good, because this movie is hitting all the right notes. It's still a great balance of British humor, just beautiful kindness, a simple story, but really just a well put together movie from the score to the cinematography. It's just so inviting, and you're not going to be disappointed watching these movies whatsoever. And if there's ever a feel good movie, put this on.
All right, perfect. So that's what we were assigned for movie homework this week. We will reach out again and we will see what movie homework assignments we're going to get. Jay is already going to be doing The Fly because that's what my sister Kim requested of him long ago, and Willow. And I will get a new movie homework from our patrons. If you want to assign us movie homework, please head over to patreon.com/supermoviebrospodcast and you can assign me and Jay movie homeworks every week. So Jay, that's it. We did our homework assignments. Now let's talk about the films that we got into watching this week. Let's get into what are you watching?
What are you watching?
What are we watching?
I think he's trying to watch some illegal channel.
Always watching.
No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
All right, Matt, so what did you get around to watching this week? Did you get to watching anything new? Anything that you...
Well, I did, like I mentioned before, I tried to get in to see Free Solo, wasn't able to. Hopefully I will be soon. And also a couple other movies in theaters right now, little small indie gems that are out there.
I know you want to see the Nicole Kidman movie, Destroyer.
Yes, I don't think it's in theaters quite yet near us.
It's in select theaters. It has not come to
It'll get to us eventually. Yet. I'll be definitely checking that one out as well.
And next week we will be reviewing Glass, so you have that to look forward to.
Yes, and Other than that, True Detective dropped.
Yeah.
Season 3.
All right, so I was watching that as well.
I did not. They dropped the first 2 episodes. I only saw the first episode.
Oh, that's such a shame, man.
Yes.
You missed out because like I know I texted you around like 10:30 last night, and you're like,
Look,
"What? It's this week?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Well, partly because of the Eagles game, I got fucking wrecked afterwards, and so I kind of passed out while watching the second episode because I was too drunk.
I watched both episodes.
I admit it.
It is return to form for True Detective. Oh, just immediately off the bat, it's
solid. The first episode, I remember it just being rock solid.
It's not a clone of the first season. The characters are different. You know, it's not like we're following 2 cops who have the same personalities as Woody Harrelson's character and Matthew McConaughey's character. They're completely different, and I think that's one of the things that help. Mahershala Ali is fantastic in it.
Yeah,
and I'm really enjoying Stephen Dorff as well.
It's interesting seeing 3 different decades.
Yeah, when I saw him pop up, when I saw Stephen Dorff pop up, I was like, not a huge Stephen Dorff fan, right?
I'm okay with him.
But, seeing him here with the role that he's playing, he works. He works in the role. The mystery is 100% there. It kind of sets the hook early on in the first episode. But man, it starts reeling you in the second episode. It starts dropping a few bombs on you, and you're like, "Wow!"
Yeah.
As you're trying to already start figuring out the mystery because it's a detective show.
Sure.
Your gears start turning, and it throws a couple wrenches into gears. So
yeah, I'm excited to see that.
Definitely,
and it makes sense that they would put the first 2 episodes right off the bat to just get everybody hooked into it.
It's just great TV, and I couldn't get enough of True Detective season 1. I think I've watched it 3 or 4 times now. There's not many series that I can say I've watched that much in my life, but True Detective season 1 is just so well done that I've watched it multiple times. And from what I'm seeing so far with the first 2 episodes, this one's going to be no different. I'm probably going to watch True Detective season 1 again, and then I'll watch season 3. I'll never, ever watch season 2.
Yeah,
it's never going to happen.
So this one is an 8 episode season this
perfect.
year. So
it's perfect for it.
It's good.
All right. Well, so what I got around to watching this week, Jay, is I was getting through some of the movies that you have already seen. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on them. I saw A Beautiful Boy with Steve Carrell and Timothée Chalamet, and I found myself enjoying it. I liked it. I wasn't crazy about it. I did think it was a little boring, and I see why it's not garnering that much attention anymore post release.
Sure,
I don't think it was that boring, but I did think Steve Carell was fantastic in it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he was the strongest part of the movie. So
really, a lot of the buzz was that it's just not the greatest entertaining movie in the world. And, even though it is true story and it's mostly focusing on Timothée Chalamet and Steve Carell,
and it's
they
a topic,
both do a very good job.
It's a topic that's been explored many times in Hollywood.
I know.
Now, if they had made it about adults addicted to opioid painkillers, that would be topical, and then Hollywood would go nuts for it, right?
You started snorting heroin?
I'm old.
Well, that stuff will kill you.
What am I, an idiot? And don't you start taking that shit. When you're young, you're crazy to do that stuff.
What about you?
What about me? I'm old. When you get old, you're crazy not to do it.
It's right around the corner. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen.
But I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. I'll never watch it again. I'm not even encouraging anyone else to watch it.
I think I gave it like a B. It was a little underwhelming for me. I was looking forward to that movie, but again, the performances were really solid. I kind of disagree with you. For me, the Steve Carell moments, I thought he did his best. He did his best job with it. His voice just distracted me. With the emotional moments when he was yelling, all I heard was Steve Carell's voice raising.
That's because you can't put it out of your head. And then
it was disappointing for me.
I got around to watching 8th Grade, the Bo Burnham directed movie, the one that you watched. This one is garnering a lot of buzz, and part of the buzz is because of Elsie Fisher, who plays the young girl in it. And I can see that because she is a fantastic little actress in it, and she does a fantastic job. But this movie is fucking boring. Like I can't stress this enough.
Boring
and frustrating, right? Like
It's
kind of annoying.
It's boring. Well, kids are annoying,
Yeah.
and so I wasn't annoyed by it like that. But I did find it pretty boring. But I do see that how it is very true to life. I watched it with Lauren, and Lauren's like, no, I mean, this is what like life as an 8th grade girl is like. Like that is it's very true to life. But at the same time, like I wasn't thrilled with it. Like I didn't get done and just go, man, Gucci.
Right.
It just wasn't. It was just so absolutely boring. And I can't like tell anyone like, oh man, definitely go seek this out.
Didn't
Don't
overly care.
I didn't
That's
care
the problem
at all. I didn't care at all. And like when she's recording these videos for herself to watch in the future, I'm just like, I hope you fucking laugh at yourself.
Yeah, and you know what? She probably will. I don't know, but like, and maybe this movie isn't really tailored for us. Like I said, my favorite scene of the movie was the father scene.
Yeah.
Around the campfire, and that. And even around the dinner table, because you can see he's really trying, and he's trying to speak her language
if you have
too. But
teenagers that age, if you have kids that age, if this movie holds a little bit more resonance for it.
I got a couple girls that I went to school with and graduated with, and they actually had babies a little on the earlier side, so they are around that age.
Okay,
so I'm curious to ask them.
So yeah, I mean, I honestly, unfortunately, I can't recommend anything this week other than if you've never seen Tombstone, go check it out. There's a couple scenes in there you might really enjoy. Yeah. So coming up next, me and Jay are going to run through the news for this week, so stay tuned. It's time for the news. All right, Jay, we got a few news stories that we're going to be running through. Let's start off with one of yours. What do you got on the docket?
Well, say no more. Alien is dead. 20th century.
Alien's not dead. I'll bring the fuck back anytime I fucking want.
Fox put the fucking end to that.
I'll be damned if you're going to give it the Bronco.
There's nothing in development. That's the news I got right there. Boom. I love it.
And
I'm happy about it. We need a break.
And Ridley Scott just lost his retirement fund.
He did. Just fucking hop on that producer credit and just roll with it.
All that
just roll with that.
All
just
that barrel-aged scotch he's going to have to return because he's been banking on doing another Alien film. Look, I don't have a problem with this. What this comes down to is that there was no Alien film officially in development when the Disney acquisition was starting. So there's no sense in starting another one. They're finishing out the films that they had in production.
Yeah, within 2 years, they're going to announce something. Absolutely.
I think so too. Because Disney has already said that, you know, they may still run things under a Fox banner and stuff like that, and rated R movies are not out of the question. It just has to be called for. It has to be a movie that you know, it needs to be rated R for subject matter, and I think Alien would warrant that. Next news story. So, Jay, we know that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has garnered a lot of critical attention, positive critical attention. And we know that Sony is very pleased with that reception. And they've even announced the all-female spin-off movie that'll be coming out, probably starring Spider-Gwen, because she was a huge hit in the movie as well. Now, Sony is also stating that they are considering making a Spider-Man Into the Spider-Show TV-verse spin-off. What this entails, I'm not entirely sure. You know, whether this would be like a streaming service show, whether they would, you know, put it on Netflix. There's no words on that at all.
I don't want it.
But they are saying that it's possible that they would go this route rather than making a sequel.
I don't want it.
I think the Spider-Verse is broad enough.
We need to breathe. All right, we have Far From Home coming out this coming year.
Well, Jay,
we need to breathe.
It's
from
not
Spidey,
in development yet. It's not like it's coming out next year. So calm down.
That's the thing about these news stories. They get me all hot and bothered.
Take a breath. It's not out yet. They're not saying coming 2020 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse TV series, because the all-female Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie will be out by 2020. It's animated. They can make it pretty quick if they need to. But I actually do enjoy this because I think the Spider-Verse is vast. It's large. There's a lot of versions of Spider-Man. There's a lot of things that you can go in and explore with this. And I think it brings Miles Morales more to the forefront for a younger audience who are more apt to watch a cartoon series rather than get taken to the movies by their parents.
And they did a great job with Miles.
Absolutely. So I look forward to that. And it makes it very easy to kind of groom a next generation for a different Spider-Man.
It absolutely does.
Next news story.
No host for this year's Oscars. I think it's kind of good.
I think I'm okay
for
with
this
that.
year. I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with that.
I like hosts. I think it's a necessary thing. I think we need to have them.
There's never been a host for the Oscars where I was like, God damn, he was good. She was good. They were good. Billy Crystal, right? He's done it like, 5 times?
I keep going with Billy.
Yeah.
Because he just
call him up.
I like, you know what I really want? I want Neil Patrick Harris. That's who I really want.
Why don't we
or Hugh Jackman again.
Why don't we just get some druids to like resurrect the dead corpse of Robin Williams and get him out there? And he's like, oh, hey, I'm hosting the Oscars. I bet you didn't think I was that. Oh, no.
Or like there's
Mr. Alonso.
There's people out there. Like I think you just want a classy show. A classy host, showman.
You want a classy show? I don't. I wanted to shake it up a little bit. I want it to be a little fun.
I want a classy showman.
And no host. That's perfect because now it's more of like a variety hour now.
And it might be the first Academy Awards to be ended on time.
On time, right. Right. No
swear to God, it really will.
No monologues.
Oh.
I don't know if it's going to be great, but I'm okay with it.
I think it's going to work perfectly fine. They're going to make it work.
One of the interesting thing is apparently the Academy Awards, the Academy, they seem to be a little bit worried about the ratings not having like a name host that people can get behind and be like, I'm going to watch it because that person is the host. So what they're doing is they're trying to get the most popular people out there right now. So even though Avengers Infinity War, none of these actors are nominated for anything that are in the Academy, they're like, can we get those actors to appear as the Avengers and deliver awards? We won't give them an Academy, but we won't give them
special effects category.
Right. But what I'm saying is none of those actors are nominated for anything.
It's true.
So, but they want them there because they're popular, and if people see the Avengers on TV, they're going to want to watch it.
It's true.
I mean, it's smart. I get it.
It's smart. I get it. And guess what? It's ABC.
Yeah.
Disney owns ABC.
Just pull that contract string
Disney,
a little harder.
Marvel, come on, exactly.
Do you think they can? Do you think they can count that as one of their appearances that they? I only signed on for 8 appearances. This counts.
Yeah, probably.
Next news story. All right, Jay. The Star Trek 4 director S.J. Clarkson actually left production on Star Trek 4. We reported this in the news a while ago. We even commented about that's kind of like the same thing that happened with J.J. Abrams leaving Star Trek 3. He actually left S.J. Clarkson to direct the Game of Thrones prequel pilot. He was more excited to do a pilot for a television show. Granted, one of the largest and biggest television shows that has ever existed in the past, 20 years or so, but he still left a Hollywood motion picture to go direct a TV pilot. That's how troubled this production for Star Trek 4 was. And now they are okay with telling us Star Trek 4 is canceled. It's not happening. They're not looking for a new director. No more script treatments are coming out. They're not negotiating with Chris Pine anymore, who said that he was done.
Yeah.
They're just done. It's all over with. So that whole script that they had where they were going to go back in time and bring Chris Helmsworth forward in time so that him, who played the father of Chris Pine,
no, I'm fine with this.
Can go through. I'm okay with it too. I wasn't in love with Star Trek 3 enough that I felt like they needed to do more. I really enjoyed 2009 Star Trek. I thought it was a breath of fresh air for that franchise. But now that franchise is surviving on the CBS streaming app. They are, and there's a new Jean-Luc Picard TV series coming out with Patrick Stewart. So, I mean, they're giving the Star Trek fans stuff that they want. And I don't know if these movies are what anybody who is a Star Trek fan or even general movie audiences want anymore. And I think it's okay to say it's not going to work. There's no reason to fit this into a hole. We don't need to get this out at any certain time.
Right.
We can just end it. And the nice part about Star Trek is you can bring it back at any time.
Oh, always. You always
bring it back at any time. You put it in a different time period. You just get, it's never dead. It's never dead.
And guess what? It honestly did a lot better than I thought it would when it came back out. Even for the sequels, it still made money.
Absolutely. I'm okay with this. I did enjoy that series to a degree. Nothing was ever as good as the 2009.
I was never excited, though.
Right. Nothing was ever as good as the 2009 original one. After Into the Darkness, after the second one was so lackluster, by the time the third one rolled around, I was like, let's just give this a shot. Let's see where they go. And that's how I feel about the fourth one. So it being canceled, it's no skin off my nose. Next news story.
Craig Brewer is going to be directing Eddie Murphy in Coming to America 2.
And all this tells me is Eddie Murphy is broke.
The motherfucker has like 10 kids, I think, or something like that. I don't know. This director did Hustle and Flow, Black Snake Moon. You know, he's done some like
Black Snake Moon
some TV
not,
stuff like Empire.
Great.
You know, oh no, it's not. I know. You know, but Empire is pretty popular, and he's done 8 episodes of that show. So, you know,
Jay, name me one long-awaited sequel.
I don't want this.
Name one long-awaited sequel that was amazing. That was so good that you couldn't wait for it. They're never good. Name the last Eddie Murphy movie that was truly funny.
I feel like this movie's going to feel like Borat or something like that. Like,
no, it's going to feel like The Nutty Professor. It's going to be far removed from what the original Coming to America was, which was a fantastic movie, fish out of water story. You know, it was so well done, and it was and Eddie Murphy did it perfectly. He's not that guy anymore, and the sentiment for it isn't. I don't believe is there.
No, I don't think anybody wants Eddie Murphy doing this kind of stuff anymore.
No. All right, Jay, I find this one extremely interesting. Netflix is being sued over the choose your own adventure rights holder over their last movie, Bandersnatch. So there is a publisher of children's books who actually holds the trademark for the phrase choose your own adventure. So I find this interesting because
Netflix is going to be paying out.
I think for sure, but they could probably get away with a very low settlement on this. It's probably not going to be a huge settlement. It's not going to be in the millions, or it'll be in the millions, but it won't be in the high millions.
No.
But what I find interesting is, you know, when you file a trademark and stuff like that, when you file a copyright, you're filing it for a medium a lot of times. So choose your own adventure medium in books, they may hold the copyright for that, but that doesn't mean that copyright always translates to another medium like film.
Unless the film script was taken from a certain book, perhaps.
But what I find interesting about this also is at no point in Bandersnatch's title or in anything other than its marketing does it say it's choose your own adventure, right? It's not like, you know, Black Mirror presents Bandersnatch, a choose your own adventure story. It doesn't say that. So I'm wondering whether Netflix actually has a case to just go fight this and get it thrown out. More than likely, they'll just err on the side of caution and pay it out and be done with it.
Right.
But Netflix is, you know, huge, almost as big as Disney these days, people are saying. So,
yeah.
But I just find this extremely interesting, and I would love to see how this case turns out, because I'm weirdly into law like this. Like, I did spend some time in law courses and stuff in college, and because I at one point wanted to be a lawyer, but I find this extremely interesting, and I really think that Netflix has a case.
And piggybacking off of that, we have ourselves Facebook coming back in the spotlight. Alan Sorkin thinks that there should be a sequel coming up soon, based from his movie, The Social Network. So this is true. I mean, there is a lot of things that they can do and work with.
Given what happened in 2018 with Facebook and the senatorial hearings and, you know, all that stuff that
didn't hurt
down.
the company all that much.
It didn't, but it
I mean, initially a little bit, but
it's out of the press now, brushed under the rug.
I'm so happy that I chose to be so naive with politics. I can't do it.
I love Aaron Sorkin's scripts. I think he's a fantastic writer.
I agree.
I would actually this news story was so big, and there was a lot of moving parts to it. I didn't follow it close enough I think there's a lot of people who didn't follow it close enough.
Me included.
Yeah. They kind of saw the little 2-minute news story about it and stuff like that, but never really went deep into it. I think that this movie would be pretty relevant and would be kind of interesting.
Kind of exciting too.
Yeah, and I would actually want to see it. Plus, I just like Aaron Sorkin's script. So sure, do it. Let's do it. I'll sit in the movie theaters 2020. Let's watch it. Get David Fincher to do it again too. Why not?
You probably would.
Next news story. We know that we did a movie cocktail for Masters of the Universe, and you were not a huge fan of that. But it should help you to know that it's getting a remake, and the script writers behind Iron Man, Art Markham and Matt Holloway, have been tasked to write the script for He-Man and the Masters of the Universe movie that is due out in 2020. What do you think of this, man?
Fuck it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. They wrote a popular movie once. Maybe they can do it again. Let's see where this lands. Huh? People, it's nostalgia bait again. Everyone loves nostalgia. It's 1980s. You're going to get a lot of guys mine and your age who remember this toy line, who remember that movie, who remember that cartoon fondly, going out to the theaters to watch it, and they're going to bring their kids, and they're going to catch a whole new.
I'm a little surprised, but I don't want it. But whatever.
But it is a smart move to get a pedigree of writers like that who have done a hugely successful movie like Iron Man, and to announce that those are the guys that are doing it. But what I find interesting is, what have those guys been up to after Iron Man? Because if you can say that, hey, these are the writers of Iron Man, right? That was fucking 11 fucking years ago. What have they been up to now? So Matt Holloway has written Men in Black International, Transformers: The Last Night since Iron Man. He also wrote Punisher Warzone the same year. Not a great pedigree.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell to make of this. It's actually making me a little bit more worried about Men in Black International.
Yeah, sometimes just because you have a writing credit on a movie doesn't mean that you did the main treatment for it.
They were so far and few between. Like, maybe he's just one of those writers,
right?
Who just takes his time.
And they're a writing team.
Doesn't need the money. I don't know.
They're a writing team. So Art Markham has written the same movies, and they're both being tasked with writing Transformers 8 as well, which does not have a release date or a filming schedule or anything for it yet, even a script. But apparently they are working on it. So I mean, yeah, you have the writers for Iron Man behind it, but everything else they did is pretty much shit. Leading me to believe that this is going to be another shit toy property movie. So good luck. Next news story. All right, Jay, final news story that we got going here. We're going a little long for the news here, but this one is very important to me, and I feel we need to discuss it. The Game of Thrones Season 8 trailer, the official trailer, not the teaser trailer, it's still a teaser. They call it an official trailer, but it's a fucking teaser, has dropped, and they announced the premiere date for it. Finally, after being cagey, it was going to start in December, it was going to start in January, it might start next October, it might not start till August, might start in June. April was the date I kept seeing, and it turns out April is correct. It's going to premiere on April 14th. But the fun thing about this, Jay, is along with this came a few interviews with Benioff and Weiss where they were saying, strap yourselves in, it's 6 episodes, but don't think that these 6 episodes you're going to be cheated out of a full season, because each one of them, and these are reports from people who have gotten some early screeners of rough cuts and stuff, are 90-minute movies. The first 5 episodes
I'm not surprised.
are 90-minute movies, with the last one pushing the 2-hour mark. The final episode will push the 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
And normally I would say for a lot of TV shows, like, that's too much, right? Like that's too much of that thing. The hour-long formula works for TV dramas, but this,
come on.
It's Game of Thrones
is an exception.
Is such an epic scale that that
takes its time,
right?
Needs it for it to work.
And I trust Benioff and Weiss at this point, right?
Sure.
So,
and look, we have so many storylines, so many characters that we need to get their stories finished in an appropriate way, in a satisfying way. We deserve it. They deserve it. And I think it's warranted. I'm really happy about that.
I'm just hoping that, this final season, and I don't think this is the case. I'm just saying, I'm just hoping this wasn't like a race to the finish line so they can get done this and go do their Star Wars project. It doesn't seem that way. It's pretty clear that given the time in between everything, that they took their time here. I think they want to go out on a high note. And obviously HBO needs them to go out on a high note.
They need that.
Because they have 2 prequel series planned. We know we have the Long Night prequel series.
They're casting
now. Which we just talked about, that the director of Star Trek 4 left to go run the pilot for that. And then they also have the Doom of Valyria prequel series that they're going to be wanting to do as well. So a lot of Game of Thrones stuff still yet to come after this series is done, but this series needs to go out on the highest of notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly can't wait. We have 4 beers that are aging, 4 Amagang beers that are aging in in the closet right now that we are going to drink when this comes back.
Yes.
When this comes back, we're going to do an all Game of Thrones episode. I don't fucking care that it's not movies. It's the most cinematic thing that's ever been on television. So that's my.
It's true.
That's my caveat for it. That's why I can fit it in here. And we are doing 4 cocktails. It is going to be a Game of Thrones movie cocktail, a palooza.
Yeah. You want to break it down for them?
Oh yeah. So I am going to be making the Stark cocktail. You're going to be making the Lannister cocktail. Lauren is going to be making the Targaryen cocktail, and we have a 4th slot yet to be filled. It might be Rob from Fan Film Boys, or it might be one of our Patreon, my sister Kim, doing the White Walker cocktail. 4 factions that are coming together.
It's very exciting.
Yeah. So we're going to have 4 different cocktails in one episode, along with 4 different beers.
We're going to be fucked up.
Yeah, we're going to be shit-faced. All right, so coming up next, me and Jay are going to get into our beer reviews. Welcome back to the beer segment. Me and Jay got 2 beers that we are going to be reviewing for you, but before we do that, we're going to drop a line to our sponsor, Blowfish. Blowfish is the only FDA-approved hangover cure. What it is 2 tablets that you drop into 8 to 12 ounces of water, let it dissolve, drink it down, and within minutes, your hangover starts to feel better. So if you made a bet that your team was going to win in the playoffs over the number 1 seeded team, and you now have to record a segment for another show, absolutely shit-faced, and you wake up tomorrow and it feels terrible, try yourself some Blowfish, because that's what I'm going to be doing. I already told Chris I am going to be absolutely shit-faced when I record that.
The only remedy.
And the best part is he records a clean podcast, so I am going to be cursing up like a fucking storm. You probably won't even know what I'm saying, because it's going to be nothing but beeps. So make sure that you head over to 4hangovers.com. That's FOR Hangovers, and use the promo code SMBFish for your 15% off. All right, Jay, we got to put a little indie spotlight on one of our podcasting friends. This one comes from the Real Feels podcast.
I love the smell of movies in the morning.
There's no feeling in podcasts. There's no feeling in podcasts. This podcast will be quite operational when your friends subscribe.
Feels. Real feels.
Not the feels! Not the feels! Out of all the podcasts I've encountered, Real Feels was the most human.
Hey, it's Drew.
And Nathan. And Jack.
Hey guys, and we're the Real Feels Podcast. We come to you every other Wednesday with a brand new movie of a different genre every single time. So make sure to catch us on iTunes, Podbean, and any other podcatcher out there. You're the realest.
And the feelest. Come to yeehaw.
So the Real Feels podcast, they're good friends of mine over there. I talk with Drew a lot. He is a huge movie fan. And not like you and I. It's like he loves everything so much.
Right.
He just loves everything.
Infectious.
He rarely has bad things to say about movies. Even after he's trashed a movie, he still compliments it. So
it's a beautiful thing.
I love people that can be that positive. I'm not, I'm a terribly negative person, and I know that about myself. So I just wear it on my sleeve. But he is such a genuine, good guy. That
and he wears it on his sleeve.
He wears it on his sleeve, exactly. And the show is extremely entertaining because it's just 3 guys chilling, having fun, talking about movies. It's the same thing that we do over here, but probably a little cleaner, probably a little safe for work.
Yeah, a little safer, a little more just talk therapy. About the movies.
But they have a movie. But they have a great time doing it, and it is definitely a fantastic listen. So I encourage everybody to head over to iTunes or whatever podcatcher you use and subscribe to the Real Feels podcast. You can also follow them on Twitter at Real, that's REEL Feels pod on there, and then you can also play games with Drew. Drew likes to play games, so when they're doing their next movie, sometimes he'll put up like a pictograph, like a very small sliver of like a screenshot of a film, and then there's very few hints, and you have to guess what the movie is. It's a lot of fun. It's good stuff. All right, Jay, me and you got 2 beers that we got to review. So why don't we get started with you? What's the beer that you're drinking for us today?
I have Weyerbacher's Last Chance IPA. Now, this one is in a can. They used to sell these in bottles, I believe. And this one is dedicated to the animals, saving animals. So you drink a beer, you save some animals.
That's right.
And a portion of the proceeds from this can goes to help them. And it is really cool. And this one features this dog, Finn. And he was just 4 months old when he was hit by a car, broke his leg, and then he was on the mend in West Virginia, came to PA, and now he spends his days playing, gazing out the window, and just being a fun-loving pup. So it's great. I mean, it goes to, a great cause, and it's a solid beer. It's 5.9 alcohol by volume. It has a good, nice little hazy kind of unfiltered look a little bit. And it's just a very drinkable, well-balanced, hoppy, citrus kind of beer. It's not overpowering in any kind of way. It's got a little bit more of a grapefruit kind of note to it, but it's a solid beer. And I highly recommend it. We'll give it a 4 out of 5.
All right. And Jay, my beer comes straight out of Tijuana, Mexico. TJ, it's Kiki Kelly and the Stud. No, that'd
be awesome.
This is a Day of the Dead beer, and it is brewed by the Artesanías Des Morte y Cerrada. That's right.
Good job.
That's the company, and they are out of Tijuana, Mexico, and they are imported by Emerging Brands in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. This beer is the Pay the Ferryman Porter. It's 5% alcohol by volume. It is an extremely well-balanced porter. It is super dark, jet black, and it is silky smooth. It has very light toasted caramel notes and very light hints of vanilla, and it finishes off really well. It's actually quite refreshing for a porter. None of that, dark smoky flavor, none of that barrel aged stuff. It is just straight down the line porter, and
beautiful.
It's extremely solid. I would give it a 3.5, man. I like it a lot. It's just nothing about it is just like, this is amazing. Like, I have a Yingling porter that I've been drinking all week. They're very similar in styles to each other. Like they're very muted, just very run of the mill porter, but both solid. But that's why I'm not giving it like rave reviews.
Sure.
But
no, 3.5, that's solid.
Yeah,
no problem.
It's extremely solid. I enjoy it. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's definitely something that I would enjoy on Dia Des Morte.
That's awesome.
All right, Jay, some trailers have dropped, and I figured we should head over and get into a trailer park.
I'm just out here living for God, and you just... Let Poetics explain.
Poetics, bring the drums in.
Cut the beat and let the music play. No trailer park, shout out to Dave and Jay. I don't serve, but it's a newer wave. We've been on since towards God save the right style. I don't wanna flow until I know that the bass drops.
Welcome back to Trailer Park. Me and Jay are going to break down 3 trailers for you. 2 are extremely minor teasers with a lot to discuss with them. And then the other one is the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer that has finally dropped. So the first of these that I want to talk about here.
A ton of fun potential, just dripping off of each other. I mean, this is great. This one is so fun.
This one that we're doing literally just dropped on Wednesday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
They dropped that this was going to be a series that's coming to Netflix. On June 18th, 2018, the federal government announced the creation of the 6th Major Division of the United States military. The goal of the new branch is to defend satellites from attack and perform other space-related tasks. Or something. This is the story of the men and women who have to figure it out. From the guys who brought you The Office, Greg Daniels and Steve Carrell. Starring Steve Carrell. Space Force. Coming to Netflix soon. All right, Jay, so we got this little teaser that Daniels and Carrell were going to be working together again. Everyone's been talking for years that, oh my God, The Office, it's so great. Let's bring The Office back. And everyone's like, no, why would you want to bring it back and dilute it and ruin it and stuff like that? Instead of bringing The Office back.
The Office is in peak form right now.
Absolutely. What's going on now, Steve Carell apparently has said that he's ready to return to TV and do another starring role on a television series. And what better place to do it than on Netflix? And then we get the story that Space Force, this new TV show, is coming out, being both executive produced by Daniels and Steve Carell, and also starring Steve Carell. Now, what's interesting about this is not only is it from the creators of The Office, and it's another workplace comedy just like that, is how this TV show came about. Back on June 18th of 2018, Donald Trump made reference to starting a military type organization that would protect satellites and stuff like that. The quotes that are in this teaser trailer are ripped directly from Donald Trump's speech. And this got Steve Carell and Greg Daniels thinking, I think it's time that we come back. And we create another series. And I mean, that's what it came out of. It came out of these two guys who pretty much both watched this speech, are still good friends, called each other up, and immediately started work on this show.
It makes sense. They've obviously had a vision for how these coworkers in the Space Force would be interacting with each other, and how they would be talking to each other, and how comedically serious they are about their mission and what they're supposed to be doing and accomplishing. I'm assuming, but then it's just so. But obviously, ridiculous.
He would be another Michael Scott character, right?
Of course.
I mean, or maybe he won't be, but it will be. Space Force will be run by a bunch of boobs because this is the military born out of the Trump administration. So why wouldn't they be boobs?
Of course.
But Steve Carell is also, without this show even having a release date now announced, they are still writing episodes for it. It isn't even a written series. Netflix has purchased an entire season's run up front. Before pen has been put to paper, they've ordered an entire series run. And reportedly, Steve Carell is going to be paid more than $1 million per episode for it.
I believe it.
Right.
I believe it.
So when you're ready to return back to TV, it isn't because you want to go back to your roots. It's because that's where the money is for you. And Netflix has it, and they're shoveling it to him.
Yes.
So why wouldn't he just grab all that shit up?
I mean, come on. Why not?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm on board. I mean, I'm intrigued. This could be a huge flop, it could be a lot of fun.
That's what Lauren said. Lauren's like, I will watch this with great interest.
Yes.
Without knowing anything else other than the fact that it's Steve Carell and Greg Daniels working together again in a series similar to The Office with a sci-fi spin to it and stuff like that. It seems really interesting. I think that, the sentiment is there. It's giving people what they want, but different.
Right. This could only work on a Netflix, though, because nobody's going to be chomping down the time
Fox,
on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. to watch a show or something like that, like this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Netflix, you can binge it, you can watch it, catch it whenever you want and enjoy it. So it's a good idea. It'll be fun.
Absolutely. All right, Jay, the next one that we're going to be discussing, it almost made it into our news segment because it was basically just an announcement. That's all it was. It was an announcement that this was coming and this is the person who's going to direct it, and that's it. There was nothing else for it. And then this afternoon, they went and dropped a teaser for it.
It's just occurred to me we really haven't had a completely successful test of this equipment.
I blame myself.
So do I. Well, no sense worrying about it now.
Why worry? Each of us is wearing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on its back.
Yep. Now let's get ready. Switch me on.
So it turns out that we got the announcement that Ivan Reitman was not going to be directing any type of sequel to Ghostbusters, but Jason Reitman, his son, director of Up in the Air, this year's Tully, Juno, a ton of other movies.
For Smoking, just a couple other movies that flew under the radar, like this year's The Front Runner with Hugh Jackman.
A lot of gems.
A lot of interesting movies, mostly all dramas or dramedies, if you want to call it that way. But this is a different avenue, a different take. I'm hoping it's a different take. Now, this teaser did not so much imply that.
Right.
It's a very glossy, eerie kind of teaser. I'm hoping it's just a studio trailer making company that just sort of threw this together, and Reitman is still in the process of actually writing the script and develop the movie and did not actually direct this.
Well, if you couldn't tell from the sound effects that were there, he is directing Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah.
Releasing in 2020, as they tease in this little teaser trailer. And it shows the exterior shot of a barn. They're playing the Ghostbusters music. As they get up, there's something under a tarp. There's a flash of lightning off on the left, and a tarp blows up, and you see the Ecto-1 Cadillac sitting there. And I want to be very specific here, because the Cadillac you are seeing is not the 2016 Cadillac. This does not look like this is going to be a sequel to the 2016 Ghostbusters. This 100% looks like this will be something continuing or in the same universe as the 1984 and 1989 Ghostbusters that were directed by Ivan Reitman. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the Ecto-1 that is sitting there, it's got the silver circular covers for the tail lamp, whereas the chrome tail lamp covers for the 2016 Ghostbusters Cadillac were square. It also has the Ecto-1. It's got the same shape. It's got the big Ghostbusters symbol on the back. It looks like it has the giant wings that come off the back too.
Right.
That Cadillacs were famous for back in the 50s. So this 100% looks like the 1984 Ghostbusters Ecto-1 that is somehow hidden off in here. I think what they're implying, that it's under a tarp, is that we're probably not going to see Dan Aykroyd return as Ray Stantz. We're probably not going to see Ernie Hudson return as Winston Zeddemore. And we're definitely 100%, because he said no 100 different times. He said no he said no when Dan Aykroyd asked him. He said no when Harold Ramis asked him, and he said no when Ivan Reitman has asked him in the past to do a sequel to Ghostbusters. We will not see Bill Murray in this movie, not in the capacity as playing Pete Venkman, unless some major dump truck full of money was dropped in his front lawn, and that dump truck was dragging another dump truck that was also full of money with a radio flyer wagon that was also dragging money in it as well.
We don't know a lick about this movie, what it's going to be, what kind of era, what kind of storyline. We just don't know.
No. But so here's what I was thinking.
Not technically.
Back in 2016, when he announced the all-female Ghostbusters, not even reboot, but retelling or whatever they were doing with that wound up failing. At the same time, they announced that they were going to be doing an animated film as well. And they were pretty cagey about whether that was going to be real Ghostbusters or a continuation of the original Ghostbusters, just done. They weren't saying what it was going to be, but they were saying that they were going to do an animated Ghostbusters film. No one's heard anything about that since. So when I was watching this, and I was like, is this going to be like CGI? But I watched it. It doesn't look like it's CGI. It looks like it is filmed, and it is real setting and stuff like that. That doesn't mean that this is anything more than just a teaser that something is coming. Whether I'm excited for what's coming, that's the question, because it'll come out in 2020, right?
Summer. Yeah, it's a long ways off.
Right. 36 years since Ghostbusters 1. 31 years since Ghostbusters 2. Do we need it? Do we need this at all? Is anyone still asking for more Ghostbusters at this point? And at that, does anyone want a Ghostbusters that doesn't have the characters that they loved in it? Are they looking for a new generation of Ghostbusters? Is this what we need?
I think it's a little too early.
Right. I mean, but
I think it's a little too soon.
But let's talk about, and this is what I was thinking. What if instead this trailer showed the exterior of a barn and it pulled in, and as it pulled in, the tarp blew up, and you hear dun 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 dun, and you see the DeLorean sitting there. What if this was just Back to the Future? I mean, why do we need to go back to these things that are still great and still hold up today? Why do we need a new version of it? I mean, is Sony that desperate to have something to really hang their hat on, to have new franchises to put? Because when you look at it, they got Spider-Man, who's technically still part of the MCU. They just had Venom, which is a hit, which still exists in that universe. But what else do they have as far as a franchise goes? Not a whole lot.
Spidey.
Yeah, and then
that's about it.
And then they're animated movies.
Yeah.
So I get why they're doing it from a financial standpoint, but as fans, why should I be excited for this? Because it almost most certainly will not be better than any Ghostbusters thing that came before it with the original cast, right? It most certainly won't be that. And at the very best, I will enjoy it, but it won't improve what I've gotten before.
Right. No, it's not.
It can only stand to dilute it and hurt it at this point. It may not. It may be good enough that it just is, and it's there, and we all go, oh, that was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't know if they're trying to fix it, and this is going to be one of those movies where, well, if we put out a new one soon enough, people might think, oh, this is going to be the better one.
Right.
They're fixing all the wrongs that happened in the previous one.
That's the only thing I can think of is that Sony and maybe possibly even Ivan and Jason Reitman are both like, we can't go out like that.
Yeah.
Like this series can't end with what happened in 2016.
And I agree. It was really disappointing.
So instead, son straps on daddy's big boy pants, goes to work, and sets to correct the wrongs of the past.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
That's what it seems like. They have the power to. They have the money.
Okay.
You know, I that's the only theory that I can think of.
All right, that's the only narrative where I'm like, okay, let's do this. Let's make this so that the last thing I don't see of the Ghostbusters was the 2016 movie.
Right.
That's the only reason to do this.
Because they can.
Right. Okay. I mean,
I'm serious, Dave.
Granted,
I mean, it makes sense.
There are new fans every day. I always talk about like when I was watching Ghostbusters and my daughter was like just turning 3. She saw it and she kind of just fell in love with it. I don't know why. It's not like she was understanding the jokes that I was getting. I don't know what it was about it that grabbed her, but she thought Slimer was hilarious. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was the greatest thing in the entire world. And what it was interesting to her. So there are new fans.
And then again, Dave, when you think about it, when it comes out, we're going to have a new generation of kids for them to market towards. And then also have the kids that grew up that want to watch this again, who might have liked it, to watch it again. So, and of course, us who grew up with the originals.
It's true.
It's not the worst business decision. But I just hope they do it.
It's just ironic that they announced this while off air.
It's bizarre.
Not recording. That me and you were literally talking about when, like, what's next to be rebooted? Like, what's going to happen next? And me and you were jokingly saying that Back to the Future is probably next on the docket. It's going to happen. Eventually, it's going to happen. And then, you know, I said, well, they tried rebooting Ghostbusters. You know, there's no way they could do that again. Jay, this is like betting on black in roulette. Bet it all on black. And then it fails. And you go, you know what? Bet it all on red. Double or nothing. I'm going to try again.
I mean, no, you're right, Dave. It's essentially what it is.
All right. If this fails, does Sony say, I'm done with Ghostbusters, or do they wait 3-4 more years and just try it again?
I don't know.
How do you bring back to the Future, though? And I have a theory about how you bring. Here's how you bring it back. You make it in modern times, right? It's in modern times. Of
course, you have to.
Everything that happened with Michael J. Fox still happened. So you can have your cameo with it.
You can use the de-aging technology now.
No, well, you can't stop the shakes. His de-aging technology would be like he would shake and all the digital stuff that they put on the right hand side would still be there, and then have to come back over, and it would look so blurry. It wouldn't work out. He's just Michael. Could you stand still for a second? We're trying to apply the de-aging technology.
He just flips the bird.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
But anyway, and here's what you do. The DeLorean is discovered by a new generation, and It's Dom from Fast and Furious. 88 miles an hour is he goes back in time. It's the fastest quarter mile he's ever done. And he goes back to the beginning of the Fast and Furious universe to stop Brian from dying.
Oh my God. Because he grew up with the movies and he was a big fan.
He actually travels to a new dimension and stops Paul Walker from dying, not Brian, because Brian's still alive in the movies.
Oh my God.
Fastest quarter mile.
I mean, it could work.
I gotta go back in time for family.
You family.
All right, Jay. We got one more trailer to talk about, so let's cue that one up.
Thank you, Spider-Man.
That was so good. Hey, sorry I'm late. Happy.
You look nice.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. New dress?
Yes, it is. How'd you know?
What just happened?
Planning a trip?
Mm-hmm. Going to Europe. It's a school trip.
Did you get your passport?
Peter Parker here to pick up a passport, please.
Mini toothpaste? Mm-hmm. Pack your suit.
I just want to go on my trip with my friends. Europe doesn't really need a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. You look really pretty.
Therefore, I have value.
No, that's not right.
I'm messing with you. You look pretty too.
I just want to spend some time with MJ. I think she really likes me, dude.
That reminds me when I first fell in love. I had just finished my film called.
So nice to finally meet you, Spider-Man.
You're Nick Fury.
Put some clothes on. Let's go for a ride.
Is he gonna be okay like that?
Might want to turn him over so he doesn't swallow his tongue.
I think Nick Fury just hijacked our summer vacation.
Awesome! You got gifts, Parker, but you have a job to do. Are you going to step up or not? You're all alone. Your friends are in trouble. What are you going to do about it?
You don't want any part of this.
Who is that guy?
He's like Iron Man and Thor rolled into one.
He's no Spider-Man.
What is it with you and Spider-Man?
What? He looks out for the neighborhood, has a dope suit, and I really respect him. Sup, dickwad?
All right, so we've been waiting for so long for the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer to drop. It was supposed to drop almost a month ago after it premiered at the Brazil Comic-Con, and it didn't happen. It was supposed to premiere right around the same time as Captain Marvel.
No explanation, just
no explanation. But now it finally has dropped, and it is very careful not to give you any hints towards Infinity War. The only thing that you know is that we saw both Peter Parker and Nick Fury get decimated in Avengers Infinity War, and they're both back here. And possibly Maria Hill, because we get that scene of Nick Fury and someone else next to him with blonde hair firing at blonde highlights in their hair, firing at the giant sand creature that's punching things. And it's like, that could be Maria Hill, but it could also be Sharon Carter, Jay. I was thinking that as well. Could be Captain America's girlfriend from the present, Sharon Carter. Not his girlfriend from the past, Peggy Carter.
Sure. No. I mean...
He keeps in the family. I mean, you know.
But you never know.
You never know. That's true. So when I was watching this, I was like, okay, well, so... This has always been my problem with this trailer, even coming out, is that no matter what, it's going to bury the lead that Spider-Man survives Endgame. And we knew that was going to happen because being in the know, we know that they're making more Spider-Man movies. We knew that Far From Home has already been scheduled since before they even gave us a name for Avengers 4 Endgame. You know, since even before Avengers Infinity War came out, we knew that there was going to be a Spider-Man 2. But then Amy Pascal came out.
Yes.
And in my mind, I was thinking, okay, there could be some bit of time between Spider-Man Homecoming and Avengers Infinity War where you could fit this Spider-Man story in. Maybe this actually takes place chronologically before Infinity
Which
War.
still would make sense.
And I would probably go with it. Even though the MCU timeline's tight enough, I think you might be able to squeeze it in.
It's just another Spidey story.
Exactly.
You know, he's a kid. He gets into shit, you know?
But then Amy Pascal comes out and says, like, this movie's going to pick up minutes after Endgame. And I'm like, well, fuck you.
Yeah.
Because I liked having that little bit of mystery going into it.
I liked it too.
But now Amy Pascal ruined that mystery for me. It takes place minutes after Endgame ends. And she said minutes.
Yeah.
Like minutes. As if whatever happens at the end of Endgame is going to pick up. And we don't even know what Aunt May is celebrating there as she introduces Spider-Man and everyone's cheering him on and stuff like that. We don't know what they're celebrating. Obviously, he's being awarded something for his heroics.
Even Nick Fury, he lives. He faded away in the last movie, and he's already back to work doing his usual thing and trying to recruit Spidey into.
We haven't seen him since Age of Ultron.
Saving Europe.
Like we haven't really seen him since Age of Ultron,
right? Except the end credit scene
and the end credit scene in Avengers: Infinity War. So. Whatever he's and even him like being off in Europe kind of seems like that storyline's picking up where he left off in Winter Soldier and Avengers Age of Ultron. Like this could just take place before Endgame, but they didn't let it happen. They ruined it, and that takes place after Endgame. Thanks, dicks. Now that's spoiled. But beyond that, let's talk about some of the other shit that we got in this trailer.
Well, first of all, I thought the comedy was on point.
I loved the Happy Hogan, like you look nice. Well, you look great too, and it's like, what just happened? I like that.
I love that.
Very similar to the Tony Stark thing that happened in the original Spider-Man Homecoming. Also, notably, no Tony Stark in this trailer. Not even a hint of him. Not even a mention of him.
You don't need him. Not anymore.
Are they tipping?
I don't think so.
Are they tipping their hat that Tony Stark's dead anyway? I mean.
Possibly.
The big rumor is he's dying. Everyone's dying at the end of Endgame.
Possibly.
Yeah, who knows?
But I really do think that they don't need him anymore.
Right.
They needed him. Okay, so on our previous trailer review, I actually thought Homecoming didn't need Iron Man in it. And I was a little upset that he had him in there, but it was fitting. It was a nice little
marketing wise. They needed him because they needed people to know that even though this was a Sony property, it's still part of the MCU. So he was there marketing,
and he was going to be a big factor, in the storyline throughout. Right. So this one, he might not be. He's his own man now. And the way Into the Spider-Verse kicked off and was raved about.
Well,
people still love Spidey, and they're going to still eat it up.
Let's get into the actual trailer itself, and we'll save a lot of the other discussion that me and you have been talking about in the past couple of days, weeks, whatever, for towards the end. So we get that little exchange there between them. Peter is going off to Europe. Obviously, that's why it's far from home. He's going on a school trip, a summer trip. He's packing up, and when he closes it, we get our first reference in this Sony Marvel universe to Uncle Ben. You know, every Spider-Man story has always started with the origin of Uncle Ben's death, and then with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man pulls up his little big boy britches and goes out and becomes the hero that he feels like his uncle would want him to be. We haven't gotten that storyline because we've been told it so much that Sony's kind of shied away from it.
Sure.
But we get a suitcase that says BFP, Benjamin Franklin Parker. So we're getting a little hint that Uncle Ben, that storyline, it's here. We just don't need to tell you again.
No, it's a nice little nod.
You know it's
there,
there,
sure.
but we don't need to tell you again.
Right.
So he goes off to Europe. He's starting his little budding romance with MJ, played by Zendaya, who, you know, in the original one, it was a big mystery whether she was MJ, and then they dropped the ball at the end, and she says, "My friends call me MJ." Now that she has friends, that's what people call her, because she didn't have friends before. But I do like her line where he's like, "You look pretty," and she's like, "Oh, so now I have value." And I was like, oh, how PC and 21st century of her.
I know. As soon as you sound like, oh, God. But then at least, like, she was so self-aware about it and just kind of joked about it. Yeah, I'm kidding.
I loved it, though.
Thank God. That saved it. Because I was like, don't be like that.
I loved it. I loved it, though. I love that she was joking about it. I love that it was there.
Yes.
And also a budding romance that I'm speculative of. There's a few times where
you spotted this,
where the kids are running away from an explosion, and towards the end we see them all watching, you know, the news feed, and they're talking about what they're seeing on the screen, and Betty Brant has her arm on Ned's shoulder. And in all the scenes where there's like explosions and the kids are running, Ned is holding Betty Brant's hands. I think Ned's got himself a girlfriend, man. I think Ned's dating Betty Brant.
I hope so.
And I think that's a nice way of tying, the Betty Brant romance from the comics into it, where she's not dating Spider-Man, she's dating his best friend, who's kind of like Spider-Man light. He's the guy in the chair, So I like that. It was kind of cute. I don't know whether they have a relationship. I'm just being speculative here. And
it could be a charming little relationship.
Right. We get our first image of Nick Fury, and he's returned. He shoots Ned with the dart, which is adorably funny, a lot like the original movie was.
And still a little surprising, though.
Right. But what I find, he's
just shooting little teenage boys right in the neck.
Well, so he's recruiting Spider-Man to come work for him for some unknown plot device that we're going to find out later. You're led to believe that it's to stop Mysterio, but that might not be the case. So Nick Fury recruiting him here reminds me of the Ultimate Spider-Man TV series that was on. It was a cartoon. It involved him being recruited by Nick Fury along with Iron Fist, Luke Cage, White Tiger, some other Marvel characters that are street level and stuff like that. And they're basically being trained by S.H.I.E.L.D. to go out there and fight things and stuff like that. So it reminded me a lot of something like that. I think it's paying like a little bit of homage to that because he was a much younger Spider-Man in that. He's obviously still a much younger Spider-Man here. And it's a nice way to bring Nick Fury back into the main fold of the MCU and not out there doing, the clandestine stuff that we're not seeing. We might get hints at what he's been up to, which would be kind of cool. And it might be what he's recruiting Spider-Man for. There was a awesome comic book storyline that was written by Brian Michael Bendis called Secret War, where Nick Fury went and recruited a whole bunch of people from the Marvel Universe, including Daredevil, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Luke Cage, and they introduced Quake, who was this young girl mutant who can control seismic activity and stuff like that. He sent them all to Latveria to fight the person who basically took over for Doctor Doom. And after they were done their mission, he wiped all their memories. And didn't tell them all about it. So I'm wondering whether it's playing a little bit homage to Secret War as well, because a lot of the MCU draws on that era of the comic books, that 2002, 2003, 2004, 5, 6, stuff like that. A lot of it draws from that era, especially a lot of stuff written by Brian Michael Bendis. So I'm wondering whether that has anything to do with it with the recruitment as well. But we get our first look here at Mysterio. We see some shots of Nick Fury and who we think may be Maria Hill firing their guns at a giant sand creature, and you're led to think maybe that's Sandman. Then we see a giant water creature. Maybe that's Hydro Man or Aquaman or whatever. I think his name is Hydro Man, but who cares? Water Man.
Doesn't matter. Elemental
Man. And then they show a fire guy, and it's like, oh wait, all these fire guys. And then we get our first look at Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio.
But they all have a similar type of style, movement, shape.
So here's my theory. What I think is going on is that Mysterio is creating these giant elemental creatures attacking major cities in Europe and then showing up and fighting them, making himself the greatest hero. Because the whole thing about Mysterio is...
Yet fighting away Spider-Man so that he can take the limelight.
Exactly.
And be the big star.
Right. So that's what I'm thinking. Because in the comic books, in a lot of the storylines, Mysterio was a special effects artist, right? He created special effects, and that's how he always fought Spider-Man. He didn't have any powers himself, but he created these realistic special effects that fought Spider-Man for him, pretty much. And that's what he's kind of doing here. He's seeing the rise of superheroes and the fame that they garner, and he's trying to capture a little bit of that fame. So he's creating these giant monsters, he's fighting them himself, and he's hailing himself the hero. He's basically Syndrome from The Incredibles.
You sly dog! You got me monologuing! I can't believe
is what he's doing.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man is going to run afoul of him, and that is going to make him his villain.
I think it's a good casting now. I mean, I didn't like the way he looked or what he did. I thought it was a little too brief and a little too corny.
I thought he looked cool.
However, when I think about it, the character itself, it makes sense. And Gyllenhaal, in previous works, you can see him being that kind of offbeat, nerdy-esque kind of guy who wants to be cool and fit in.
Yeah.
And, I think it's good casting. So we'll see how it goes.
I like the way he looked in the suit. I like the look of the suit. I think that's perfect for Mysterio.
That was fine. It was just all the action stuff during that time.
I also like the way he looked with they do give him the giant fishbowl. He has the fishbowl on his head as he's fighting the giant sand creature. As he's fighting the giant water creature, and I
missed that one.
Yeah, so he has the fishbowl on. So he does have it. So it is very comic reminiscent, and I do like that. But I'm wondering whether they are special effects that Spider-Man's fighting. Because there's one point where like the giant Hydra Man punches Spider-Man, and he actually falls back.
Right.
So there is some substance to them. But that essentially is the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer. It ends with them watching Mysterio fighting these elemental creatures, and they're announcing him on the news as some new hero. And they're all the kids are complimenting how he looks. And of course, Flash Thompson is talking about how he's not as cool as Spider-Man now. What's wrong with Spider? He protects the neighborhood. He's got a cool suit. It's like I really respect the guy. He sees Peter Parker. What's up, dickwad? And Peter Parker just gives him a thumbs up where he's like, fuck you, you love me.
Yeah.
You don't love Peter Parker, but you love Spider-Man.
Yeah, I thought the beginning and the end was the best parts of the trailer.
Yeah. It's charming. I'm intrigued by it. I really wish more mystery was left. I think the trailer leaves plenty of mystery.
It does. No, it does.
But Amy Pascal's announcements afterwards
I'm just a little worried about more. I mean, I think the most of the next trailer will be around Mysterio. And that's probably about it. There's not going to be too much more than that.
Something tells me there's another villain in this, though. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Something tells me there is another villain's hand at work in this, and we're not going to know what it is until we get closer to the film. Sure, stuff will leak out, and they will put stuff in the trailers. But I think there's another villain at hand here. But back to Amy Pascal's comment, where it says this picks up minutes after Endgame. We don't know how Endgame ends, Jay.
No.
And I told you that there is the possibility of alternate dimensions existing, or if my theory is correct, and what I think happens is Ant-Man goes into one of those wormholes within the quantum realm and winds up into the past, and other Avengers figure that out, travel to the past as well, change the past. They could create an alternate timeline where everything that happened still happened, but by changing the past, they create an alternate timeline that runs parallel to the original MCU timeline. And this movie could possibly take place in that other timeline. And obviously there's been rumors of time travel and stuff like that. But if you watch the Endgame trailer, when Captain America and Black Widow are looking at that screen and Ant-Man's like,
we met a few years ago at the airport in Germany. I got really big.
Is this an old message?
Ant-Man, I know you know that.
It's the front door.
That's me.
If you freeze frame it and you look in the top left-hand corner, there's a year there. And to me, it either says 1983 or 1993 or something 3, and then archive, which means he's in the past. He's not out front of Avengers compound. He's standing outside of some dilapidated, rundown, former Stark Tech facility. And it's not Avengers compound at that time because he's in the past. And that's where their idea for their plan is going to come into effect.
It will.
And I'm thinking that
I just can't believe I haven't heard more about this before.
I just think it'd be interesting if that timeline that this winds up being an alternate timeline, and that's where the MCU continues from here. The alternate timeline that they create, and that maybe this Spider-Man movie. And this is all speculation, obviously.
Well, of course, but we heard it here first. From Super Movie Bros, yeah.
But yeah, I'm wondering, whether she's giving out, Amy Pascal's giving out this information. This takes place minutes after Endgame, because it does, just not in the original MCU timeline that you think it is.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking when you earlier previously were mentioning that during the description of the trailer. It made me think about that. I'm like, maybe this is a different dimension. Maybe this is a different parallel universe
or a different timeline.
And maybe Cap has his old lady back in this current world. You don't know.
You don't know.
I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah.
Anything.
Certainly intriguing. Definitely something that, obviously MCU. We both enjoyed Spider-Man: Homecoming.
We like to overcomplicate things.
Yeah. So it's what I'm getting at is we can't just watch the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer without thinking about what's going to happen in Avengers Endgame. And I kind of wish that they could have waited longer for this marketing. They can't. I get today's media. I get today's market. We can't wait. We're not allowed to. We have to know about things at the very minimum 6 months before they come out. And that's
the big stuff.
That's exactly where we are. 6 months before it comes. We've known it's been coming for a while, but we got to show you stuff at least 6 months before it comes out because we can't build the hype machine. We got to start this locomotive now because we got to barrel that hype.
Or if you're Ghostbusters, a year and a half.
Far in advance. More than a year and a half, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's a year and like 7 months. It just said summer nuts. 2020. It could come out September 20th and still be summer 2020. It's that's so far off.
It's really weird. I just don't get it.
Because they have to erase what came before. I think you're right. I think they have to erase what came before. They have to erase that, and they got to get you to stop thinking about how bad that was and start thinking about how good this could be.
I don't understand the timing, though, Dave. That's the problem for me. I mean, I don't understand.
I get the announcement. I get the news story.
No, I see the announcement in this summer.
I don't get the teaser.
In front of a blockbuster similar-minded or similar drawl that's going to be bringing the blockbuster.
I think that's my problem. I think that's my problem with this is that should Ghostbusters be a blockbuster?
Well, if it's Jason Reitman doing a Jason Reitman film of Ghostbusters,
it shouldn't
true, it won't be.
Right.
That's the point.
I don't think
I hope it's not a huge blockbuster.
1984 Ghostbusters didn't set out to be a blockbuster, but became a huge hit and a cult classic and stuff like that.
Everybody knows what it was.
Right.
It's not that.
But I don't think it ever intended to be that. And I think by creating a movie, to be a blockbuster where its sentiments aren't grounded in that, then you're already starting off on the wrong foot. Is what I'm saying. You're on the right foot with the comedy that is in Jason Reitman type films because it's similar comedy that's in the Ghostbuster films. It's subtle. It is all in dialogue,
it's dry and witty. Yeah.
Exactly. But and that's where the 2016 one, got it wrong. I just think that they're treating it like a blockbuster, and I think you need to treat it like a much smaller film first. Build it through its character, its dialogue, and its story, and
which would make sense bringing on Jason.
It would. I think that's what. But again, Sony and their marketing
teaser did not imply that.
No, but and we know that Paul Feig, who did Bridesmaids and then did the 2016 Ghostbusters movie, he kind of walked away from that film saying, "This isn't what I wanted to make." Sony kind of stepped in. They did their own thing. I was supposed to be in charge of marketing, or at least have a say in marketing. They completely ignored me. They added the 30 years thing to the trailer. This didn't even take place in that universe, which already threw people off. He was upset at Sony for what they did. I think Sony's already stepping in and stepping on Jason Reitman's toes before he's has probably even a script in front of him.
I think he's writing the script.
Okay, great. So he hasn't even finished it, probably.
Exactly. And
ink isn't even dry on the contract, and they've already started marketing it in a way that he probably isn't happy with.
Maybe he agreed just because this might not even be in the movie. This could just literally be an announcement teaser, and that's all it is. It's Ghostbusters. They can afford
this footage,
a couple $100,000 just to tease us with.
That footage isn't even in the movie, Jay.
No,
it's not even in the movie. Jason Reitman wasn't behind that camera.
Yeah.
Unless someone comes out and says this was Jason Reitman's test footage. That this is what he did. This is what he showed us. And
I doubt it.
I doubt it because it doesn't feel like Jason Reitman.
No, not at all.
But anyway, those are the trailers. That's what's coming very far away, especially for Space Force and Ghostbusters, and coming in July, Spider-Man Far From Home. A lot to discuss, a lot to chew over. Anything that you think about for any of these that we discussed, but we didn't get to it here on the show. Reach out to us on Twitter at Super Movie Pod. You can also reach out to Jay on Facebook, Super Movie Bros Podcast on there. If you are a member of the AARP card-carrying crowd, you can reach out to us via email, supermoviebrospodcast@gmail.com.
Which is leaning in towards Facebook nowadays, because that's where all the baby boomers like to, converse on nowadays. It seems like instead of email.
Or if you're like me and you get super drunk while recording a top 10 of your hottest Hollywood males and you need a little bit of a pick-me-up in the morning because you're dragging ass just a little bit, head over to 4hangovers.com and use the promo code SMBFish. Get your 15% off and end the scourge of hangovers forever. We're also part of a network. We're part of the Podfix Network. So please head over to podfixnetwork.com. You can check out all the great shows that are a part of the Podfix Network over there. We just added Podcast 42. There are new podcasts that got added in January, so please check them out on any of your podcatchers. Leave them a review if you like what they got going on over there. And of course, me and Jay weren't able to get to our top 5 books to movies since the year 2000 tonight with our patron Thomas Iannucci, who does the Trailer Park music that you just heard, but you can check him out on Spotify. Just search Thomas IANNUCCI on there, and you will be able to check out all of his music on Spotify. Stream it for free, and then check out our episode with him, which will be coming shortly after this one releases. I want to thank all of you for listening. Have a fantastic night. Cheers.
Cheers.